fighting amongst each other over rumors that don't like you. Prefer us trapped in melancholy with the wood wands of holly. Suggestions that obliterate to camouflage the folly. Attempted mental robbery, executed sloppily. The hypocrisy, this mockery, and block the talk with me. Put the hands up to touch the Akasha, cause you know deep down there's something bigger than your wallet.
Sweet eternal balance of all that is good, true, and beautiful, friends. Welcome to another episode of Rogue Ways. Today I'm going to tell you about why you are a fucking empath, whether you like it or not. But first I'm going to do some other things, like show you some stuff. First, I'm really excited. I have a giveaway. I did these things. They're super cool. These are my flower coasters that I made. They're flowers in a coaster. It's a set of 5. I won't show you them all, but they're all various different bright colored flowers in various arrangements and patterns. They're super cool. They're like a $50 value normally, and I'm going to give these away to you. So if you want these, even if you're a guy, you might want these. Someone pointed out, like, only girls are going to be excited about this. But what if you want to give these to, like, your mom or your girlfriend or your daughter or something, right? So guys can be excited about this too. Don't be sexist. So I want to do this by giving you, sorry about that, Rogue Ways. If you go to subscribestar.com/rogue-ways and you become a subscriber, then you will be entered to win these. If you do it even at the $1 level, so that means any of you listening can afford that, right? Even at the $1 level, that is an entry to win. If you do it at the $7 level, that's 7 entries to win. If you do it at the $22 level, that's 22 entries to win. And if you do it at the $55 level, that's 55 entries to win. That's a lot of entries if you're up that high. That level, by the way, exists for people who are into tarot readings. My tarot readings are normally $60 for a 10-card reading. And so this level, the $55 level, gives you a reading every month. So it's actually a discounted reading every month. And then it also gives you access to all the content on Rogue Ways. So, on Subscribestar for Rogue Ways. So that level's pretty rad, and then it would also give you 55 entries. Anyway, just saying, no matter what entry you do, no matter what level you're at, you can be entered to win these cool coasters. So please come subscribe, even and especially at the $1 level. I really appreciate that so much. That's like the foundation, you know, like, again, anybody can afford $1 a month. So that really keeps me going and is very exciting. And thank you. Hi, what's up, Philip? Those coasters did turn out sweet. Jason, nice to see you here. We've got... those are the only people speaking up, though I can see more people are watching. It's so funny. Sometimes it'll tell me who's watching now, and sometimes it won't. Sometimes it says 0 people are watching, and there's like 15 people chatting. I'm like, okay. Anyway, I also want to remind you that you can go to CoreySharman.com or rogueways.org also will take you to the same site, and you can get all kinds of more information and stuff. Logic 2020 is the event that's happening this summer on the solstice, so you can get tickets to Logic on the site. You can also look into the books I have written. There's a few of them. And you can read about tarot. If you're thinking about a tarot reading, you're not sure, I give you the rundown, what it's all about, and the different ways you can do that. You can see some other cool stuff and poke around into fun corners. And you can, again, buy tickets to Logic, get Rogue Ways gear, shirts, mugs, all kinds of fun stuff. And I just want to show you that I have added all of my classes that I teach and the tarot readings that I offer as products. So now you can buy them kind of more directly, I guess. Before I was doing it just kind of through PayPal and arranging it. So this is a more direct way, like you know exactly what you're getting and all of that. So come check it out. The Psycho-Spiritual Protection class is sort of a basics for people who are, you know, looking to understand spiritual protection and apply it directly. You get a lot of skills that you can keep yourself safe and keep your space safe. You can also do the Finding Spiritual Allies class after that. If you liked what you got in the Psycho-Spiritual Protection class, I'm doing a guided experience where you would find your spiritual allies in the other realms if you haven't already met them. that's a good class for you. Again, you can check out the different tarot readings you can get. And I have my Tarot Basics class, which is for people who are just starting out with tarot, want to understand more what it's about, how to do it, and just the different things about that. And there's also designer readings, but those are for people who have already done the 10-card reading and would like more information about the same topic. So it's just, there's a lot of stuff that you can poke around with and grab. And finally, I'm doing guidance sessions as well. Oh, that's the wrong price. But anyway, these are just for people who maybe you've done a reading, maybe you've done a class, and you just want more kind of one-on-one personalized guidance and direction, whether it's spiritual, physical, mental, economic, career-wise, kind of anything that you might want guidance on, that's available to you as well, just for continued support that isn't through the medium of tarot cards necessarily. We can go about that so many ways, and so I have a couple people doing those as well, and hope to get some reviews up soon. So anyway, if those are things that interest you, then go check them out. They're all available to you, and again, enter to win these beautiful coasters. I'm excited. These turned out really cool, and I'm going to be doing a lot more of these, but these ones I just wanted to do as a promotion and give them away to somebody who would love them. So I forgot to mention, to those of you who are already Subscribestar supporters, you can also be entered to win this. All you have to do is share the Subscribestar page for Rogue Ways anywhere, and then just comment on that post in Subscribestar that you did that, and I'll enter you into it. So you're not discounted just because you're already a subscriber. You too can be entered to win. So that is how anybody can enter to win these beautiful coasters. $50 value, again. So I think that's all I was going to mention. And you can still buy Sine Curve. A lot of people are taking advantage of that. If you want a copy of this cheaper than you can get it on Amazon, you can PayPal me directly $15, and that cuts out the tax and the shipping for you, so it's cheaper, and you get a little inscription from me, and some stickers, Rogue Way stickers too. So that is fun if you want to do that. It's paypal.me/Corey Sharman. I'm typing that in the chat right now if you can't tell. So if you're interested in doing that, grabbing a book, then you can do that. And if you are waiting for the audiobook, it is almost done. It's coming, it's coming, it's coming. What's up, Lacey? Good to see you. And I swear I saw someone else. Austin, what's up? Nice to see you. Those are the people saying what's up in the chat. Again, if you're watching on Facebook, I can't tell. If you want to come interact with me or the other people who I'm talking to and mentioning their names, that's over on YouTube. So go jump over there if you want to interact directly. It's totally fine to watch on Facebook. I won't see your comments until after the show is done. So that is up to you. Hope everybody's doing well tonight. So yeah, I'm here to talk to you about the fact that you're an empath. Notice this lovely mug. It's so beautiful. It's got the beautiful Rogue Ways logo and also the analog electric concentric wisdom. Very, very cool. Oh, look. Oh, I thought I was wearing the Rogue Ways shirt. I'm not. I'm wearing the Coral Castle shirt. Sorry. My bad. Coral Castle is pretty rad if you haven't been there. I actually have an episode of the road trip where Johnny and I went to Coral Castle, and it's fucking cool. That place is a trip. It defies the imagination. And what's up, Digital Apparition? Some random guy. Just kidding. He's pretty awesome. He's live streaming his drawings, digital drawings with music lately, and that's really cool and exciting to watch. So that's cool. I would link it or like tell you where to go, but I don't know how. So anyways, I'm going to get to the point now. I think I've wasted enough time. Enough people have caught up and are here now. So okay, we're going to talk about the fact that you're an empath. And the theme of this episode is not empathy or being an empath. It's actually trust. Trust is the theme of this episode. This episode is actually, the whole thing is actually about trust. I didn't actually mean to trick you into that. It just like came to me that that's actually what this is all about, and you'll understand more as we go. So I'm still talking about the fact that you're an empath, but just remember that it's actually all about trust. Trust is the word of the episode. So I guess first of all, we have to talk about like what is an empath, right? So in basically, like if we're just gonna like, here's what an empath basically is. It's someone who feels really, really deeply, right? Someone who has just like an emotional well or a exceptional sensory input. And, you know, if somebody is feeling that deeply and is that sensorily connected and aware, they're also going to have this sort of understanding innately that everything is connected. Literally, everything is actually connected physically, mentally, spiritually. All their senses are going to tell them this and inform them of this, right? And then because of that, they have a more direct experience of being able to literally share emotions and experiences with other living beings, like immediately in the moment. And that's empathy, right? That's what being an empath is. That's what people mean by it, at least. And so, like, a lot of times when people are talking about being an empath or experiencing that empathy, they'll describe those people as like being very intuitive, and almost or possibly fully psychic, right? So this is what we mean when we talk about being an empath. Someone who's like practically psychic or actually psychic, intuitive, very connected, understands that everything's connected, and is aware of how people are feeling emotionally and in other ways in the moment itself. That's an empath. That's what we mean. And so this comes back to trust already, because we realize that those people who are doing that and in that moment, they have this ability or this experience of trusting what they are sensing and knowing that it's real, right? If you're an empath and you're doing that, you don't doubt like, oh, I think like that person's kind of angry, but I'm not sure. Like that's not empathy, right? An empath knows for sure. An empath trusts that these things are true and experiences them directly. And that's how they know. That's how they can trust. Right? So that's what being an empath is all about. And that's how it's already connected back to trust. So what's not an empath? Like, what is it to not be an empath then? If you are one of the people who say you're not an empath, what does it mean? This is someone who, like, possibly doesn't always notice their surroundings. What's up, Trey Clark? Trey, I never thanked you for last time. Thank you, Trey. So someone who's sort of disconnected from their surroundings, doesn't really like notice them very much, maybe. Someone who's not feeling what other people in the room are feeling. Maybe doesn't even notice that other people in the room are feeling anything at all. Someone who may not even understand that the other people in the room might feel something then or ever. What's up, Courtney? What's up, Sue? You are an empath. Everyone listening is an empath. They just don't know it yet. So yeah, people who are like not connected to the things around them and not in touch with them and not aligned with them and not feeling them in the moment. And maybe they're even people who haven't yet understood that there's like literally no barrier between one molecule and the next molecule and the next molecule, and there's no barriers at all anywhere. And these people are people who we say are not empaths. And now you're sitting there going like, well, I thought you fucking said everyone was an empath, you liar. And I am. I'm saying this is the way we describe people who we say are not empaths. And this is the way that people who are not empaths are behaving or experiencing this moment, right? So these people, this already comes back to trust again, because these people who are not empaths, we say, they're not trusting their experiences or their interpretations of their sensory input data. They're not trusting it because they might not even be noticing it, that it exists at all, right? They're very disconnected from it. And so how can they trust it? In fact, these people in this state would often mistrust things that seem to be coming in because it's not connected to anything for them, right? So it's hard for them. These are the people who are going to like doubt almost everything that's going on and everything internal. They're in a state of mistrust. They don't know for sure what is real or true often because they're in this state. Sometimes there's like a really well-worn pattern inside of us and people who are not empaths that will still inform them of like what's true and what's real, or like that someone is feeling something or whatever, and they still might be in a state of being not an empath and have that. But in general, it's a state of disconnection and a state of mistrust of your own self and your own ability to know things. This is a good place to pause. Trey says, do you think maybe some people are, I would think you mean an empath, but they're just assholes and lazy and don't care? For sure. That's part of my thing about, like, you are an empath, whether you like it or not. Neil deGrasse Tyson is an empath. Well, maybe not. There are some exceptions, but yeah, in general, fucking everyone's an empath. So who, like, are there people who could never be an empath? Yes. But they're like, let's just say 3% or less of the population of all of humanity could never be an empath and are not empaths. And that's like for very specific reasons, and it's very rare. It's extremely rare, right? And maybe Neil deGrasse Tyson's one of them. I admit that is totally possible. But we're talking about people who, like, literally could never be empathic, even if they focused and tried and, like, did all of these things and, like, really worked at it. They still could never touch empathy. That is rare. So again, maybe Neil deGrasse Tyson, but probably not. He's probably an empath too, because you're a fucking empath. There's very, very few people. And so those people are psychopaths and sociopaths. Those people aren't empaths. They can't be empaths, and they will never be empaths. And maybe even sociopaths could be, you know? Like, I've, in my life, being someone who can see auras and does see auras, I have seen people who fit all of the sociopathic traits. And so you say this person is a sociopath, you know, they've even deeply harmed other living beings, and amongst other things that let me know that they were a sociopath. They fit all the mold, they fit all the categories, all the characteristics of what I'm trying to say of being a sociopath. And even them, I have seen things affect their auras in ways that show that actually they have empathy. They just are maybe, like, so fucking far from it that it would take, like, just mountains of work to get back to the point where they could be in touch with it. I don't know. So, like, maybe even sociopaths could be empaths too. I don't know. But I'm just saying it is true that there are people like psychopaths and possibly sociopaths who, like, literally could never be an empath. I'll admit that. But again, that's a very small percent of the population. And the rest of you are fucking empaths. Even if you're someone who's like, no, I'm not. I'm spiritually dense or whatever. Or I'm, like, emotionally dense. Or I'm, like, whatever, all these things. Like, you're an empath too. But so even though sociopaths, I've seen someone specifically whose aura was affected by emotional activities outside of that person, indicating that perhaps they could be an empath. I don't want you to think that you can now go and find that sociopath in your life and, like, save them. You just gotta let those people go. They're on some path. They're doing that for some reason. And all you're gonna do is get yourself caught up in their bullshit because it's stronger than yours. Because it's more disconnected than yours. Let me rephrase that. Your shit is way stronger than theirs. Theirs is just way more effective at dismantling people and situations. So don't go to try to save them just because I said that they have auras or whatever. Like, let them go and move on from them. You can't do anything for them. And what's up as far as I can tell? Nice to see you here. Am I going to teach aura recognition at some point? Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great idea. Let's make it a class. It's way too easy to be a class, though. Maybe I'll just do it. Maybe I'll do it at the end of this episode. We'll do aura recognition. I don't know. We'll think about it. I'll write on my little thing here to see. And if I forget, mention it later on, and we'll see. It's way simpler than you think. And you're a fucking empath, so you can see auras. Because empaths can see auras. All right. So, again, don't try to say the sociopath are on their path, but we can bring this back to trust, because we can say you have to trust that that soul is doing its thing for some reason, and that it's beyond you, and you don't need to mess with it, and you just let them fucking go down that path. Trust that it will be okay for them in the end at some point, because it will be. That's, like, none of our business, right? We're just worried about ourselves and our soul and our path, because that's all we can control. So trust that that's going to be okay. You don't need to determine how that person's life or soul turns out. Something else is doing that for them. Okay, so let's take it back a step and let's think about just ourselves as human beings. What do we all share in common? And we can just discount those few psychopaths and whatever, and just think about the actual humans left in the room, the 97% of us that are still here. What do we all share in common as human beings? Well, we all have sensitivity. Yes, even you. You have sensitivity. You literally have senses, so you're sensitive. But you also have different levels of those senses. You have like physical senses and mental senses and emotional senses. Even if they're difficult for you or you're not used to them or whatever, you still have them. We all have them. Humans have those things. We're physical, mental, emotional beings. And so we have sensitivity in those areas because we have senses in those areas. And unless you're missing one of those senses, which can happen, like if there's blind people, they don't have the sense of sight. But even they have other senses that often are stronger and make up for that lack. So there's always senses. You have sensory input. You're a sensitive human being. We all have attention, right? Especially the people who are capable of listening to this and watching this, you have attention. Again, there's probably some humans somewhere that don't have that, unfortunately, and that's their special state as well. And we trust that they will eventually end up where they're supposed to be anyway. But the rest of us, we all have attention. So we have emotions, we have sensitivity or sensation, and we have attention. And we also, all of us, also have blockages to some of those things sometimes, or some of those things all the time, or a lot of those things a lot of the time. We all have blockages to some of them. Sometimes I have like a really bad headache and it's hard for me to open my eyes very wide, and they're like the sun's blinding me and I can't see things very well or whatever. I don't know why I keep going to sight. Or sometimes I've like burnt my fingertips and I can't feel sensation as much or whatever. I actually have like numb spots in my body from my back surgery. So like there's that blockage that I have. Those things can stop us from being really in touch with all of our sense all of the time, right? From time to time, we have various levels of blockage in various aspects of our sensation. But none of them will ever stop us completely from being able to have attention and focus on our sensation, right? So we're all in various states of that all the time. It's a constantly moving and shifting like shit show of blockages for us, but we're never out of touch with any of them fully all the time. And most importantly, we all have the ability to trust in ourselves and that our senses exist for a reason and that the data coming from those senses means something, and that we're able to put our attention on that and make meaning from it. We all have the ability to trust that, which means that we also all have the ability to have had that trust broken in various ways. And that is a blockage that we might have to deal with. It's a big blockage that we might have to deal with, but we can deal with it, and we can get back to the point where we're in a state of trusting our sensory data and our sensory input. So we all have those things. Those are human characteristics and traits and experiences that we all share that make you a fucking empath. I think I just saw Sasha show up. What's up, Sasha? And Gordon, what's up, Gordon? And if I didn't say hi to you yet, I'm very sorry. I'm very happy that you're here. And if you haven't said hello in the chat yet, I'm also happy that you're here because you are a fucking empath. And speaking of blockages and all of those things that can interfere with our ability to put our attention, our focus on our sensory data at the various levels of being, some people feel like that's what life is these blockages exist and it's our job to sort of like peel them away and cast them aside, hopefully permanently at some point. Sometimes you have to like keep peeling it away because you didn't quite like get it off all the way and it like kind of reforms. You have to like peel it away again, until you can get rid of that blockage fully, and just like leave it behind you and move forward. And it's like this onion that you're like getting down to whatever is in the middle of an onion or whatever, right? To make you ever more like that which is truly you. And so maybe blockages are kind of good for that reason. That gives us this ability to decide and determine what is left when all the blockages are gone and we really are just us, just fully us, beautifully and truly us. So that's not such a bad thing, but we do want to get rid of those blockages and whatever illusions are like kind of forming around us. We want to like rip those off and try to keep them off for as long as possible, because that gets us ever more in touch and focused on our sensory input. because that's what's part of what's left when we're getting back to what's just truly us. So you got to trust that that process is occurring in your life. You got to trust that you're peeling shit off that is unnecessary and not you and full of illusion and blocking you from being truly, fully you in every moment and keeping you from being a fucking empath that you are. You got to trust that. That's what's happening. That's what life is all heading towards. That's what you're being. So, what's up, Reagan? Regan. Fuck. I forget how to pronounce your name every time. I'm sorry. I still love you, though. So what are these things that stop us from ripping away the illusion and ripping off the blockage and leaving it behind us? Like, what keeps us? Sometimes we like grab an illusion and put it on us because we're like, this is really way more comfortable. I want to be in this illusion right now, and I want to be blocked from these sensations. So I'm going to do this on purpose to myself. We do that sometimes. A lot of the time. That's like the other half of what life is learning how not to do that to yourself. It's like that thing, that meme where the guy's riding his bike and he grabs a stick and sticks it in his own wheels. Like, we're doing that all of the time to ourselves. All of the time. All of us are. And so we have to keep constantly ripping that shit off that we put there for some reason on purpose. And why do we do it? We do it because we hurt sometimes and shit hurts and we don't want it to. And so we put up a thing, right? It's more comfortable. Like, nope, that's not what's happening. This is my blockage. I don't want to perceive this. I don't want my sensory data to read that way because it hurts me. And so I'm going to put up this illusion, this blockage to keep it from happening. And that's normal. That's okay, actually. In fact, that's good. You should stop your pain when it's happening sometimes, right? There's a reason why we have these skills. It's not bad. It's just when it becomes pathological or habitual or instinctive or like, you know, automatic response is when it gets kind of bad, or when you're doing it for things that like it's time to deal with, then it can get bad. But it's not bad in the moment that you're feeling pain to want to stop it. It's very normal. It's totally cool. We do it because of our memory. Like, oh, last time this happened, you know, and I didn't really like that, and so I'm going to do this other thing again. I'm going to pretend like I'm disconnected from that. I'm going to put up this blockage because I don't want things to go like they did last time. Our memory can do that to us too. It's connected with pain, but same. And fear, right, of the future. Like, well, what would happen if, like, oh, I don't want to perceive that. I don't want to feel this way. I don't want to sense that because what's going to happen next if I do that now? And so fear can make us put some blockages in place as well and keep us from being empathic and in the moment and using our sensory data. But again, you are a fucking empath. You just may have built up some shit. Shit may have been plastered onto you that you haven't peeled off yet. You may have plastered some shit on and put on your own blockages. But all those things from pain and memory and fear that are blockages are removable. And you still have all the same characteristics of a human being that everybody has. You still have all those sensory datas. You still have the ability to put attention onto them, and you have the ability to trust them. And so you are a fucking empath. It's not going to be necessarily comfortable to have deep connection with all of your senses, and that's why you did all these blockages. It's not like a permanent character trait that you have to not be an empath. If you're not in a state of empathy, that is not who you are. It's not. This is why I am doing this show, is because I see these things where people are like, I am an empath, and other people are like, I'm not an empath. And I'm like, no, you're an empath. You're in a state of non-empathy. That's what it is. And that can be a long ass state. That can be going on your whole life so far. That doesn't mean you're not an empath. That means that you have not chosen yet, and that's fine. Totally do it if you want to. But you haven't chosen yet to be in touch with your empathic self. But you have that skill, and you should at least know that you have that skill and that you're not using it on purpose, which is totally fine. Do whatever is best for you, but don't pretend like you don't have it. That's the main thing. And sometimes we can be stopped from being empathic also because it's too much stimulus. It's overwhelming when you are getting in touch with yourself, when you're peeling off those layers and you're like perceiving more of the world around you and being more in touch with it. that's like overwhelming sometimes, right? And a lot of people will talk about this like, oh, I'm an empath, so it sucks to be in crowds and it's like overwhelming, it's too much stimulus. And it's like, well, it's not because you're an empath. It's true of all humans that too much stimulus is overwhelming, and just some people have learned how to cut it off. They're empaths too, they're just not being in touch with it in the moment, right? And it is overwhelming. I get really overwhelmed in crowds. I hate being in crowds, but I start to learn eventually that you can actually do it, even if you are an empath, which you are. And even if that's overwhelming for you, you can learn how to do it in ways that are very comfortable. Exactly. I mean, actually, is what I meant to say. Exactly. And yeah, that's not going to be easy or comfortable either. Neither states are very easy or comfortable necessarily until you learn how to be easy and comfortable within them. And it comes back to trust again. It can be another sort of blockage and can sort of stop us from our paths and moving forward and engaging fully, to not trust that whatever it is that's happening around you that you're going to engage with emotionally and physically and sensorially on all of these levels of being will pass. It will pass whether it's good or it's bad. It'll pass whether it's overwhelming or not like stimulating enough. It'll pass no matter what, and we trust that. We know that that's true. The whole permanent state of life has changed. It's the only thing that's constant. So we know that it will pass. So we trust that. So even in the moment that we might be trying to block ourselves off from, either because we're experiencing too much or not enough, we can remember we don't have to actually cut ourselves off from that, because it's going to pass. It's going to be okay. Everything's going to pass. Because you're a fucking empath and you know that. And, you know, in the end, you have to remember that you can increase or decrease your empathetic skill and your empathetic, like, in-tunedness, because you are an empath. And so if you're someone who says and has the experience of not being an empath, you can increase your empathetic skill if you want to. If you don't want to, don't do it. But if you're, again, like, if you're just telling yourself you can't or you're not that, that is not true. You just haven't done it yet. And you can do it if you want to. So just at least know that that empowered state exists, that you can choose to be an empath if you would like to experience that. Anybody can. It's a human trait. It's not a trait of personality. And it might be easier or harder for some people. There are personality traits and aspects of us that will make that true. That does not mean it's not possible. Yeah, don't try to pretend like you're not an empath, because you are. You're a fucking empath. So yeah, if you're in a state of empathy and you're being your empathic self, which you have, and you're overwhelmed and you're getting that state of like, this is too much input. I'm overwhelmed by all the sensory data I'm getting. It's way too much sensory data. I can't process it all. I don't know where to put it. What can you do in that state? It's the same way if you're like, I'm an empath, so I can't do anything about it. I just am overwhelmed. That's not true. That's bullshit. You're a fucking empath, and you're a really, really good empath, and you just haven't learned how to process that in a way, or deal with it in a way, or add a fucking layer like we were talking about, like pick up your illusion and put it on for a second, because that will protect you in that moment if you're feeling overwhelmed, right? You can do that. This is a skill that we have as humans. So, just like, what would you do if you imagine yourself like you're like a turtle or a snail or something, right? What does a snail do when it's like going along and it gets sensory data that it doesn't like? It like goes back into its shell. You can do that too. You can take your senses back in and be like, I'm not going to perceive this anymore. In this moment, I'm going to stop perceiving this thing, right? You can go literally into yourself and just notice the things that are inside of you only and focus on them. Like literally focus on the inside of yourself. If it's physical, if that helps, like literally focus on like your heart and like think about it beating and just focus on that. It's like a meditation, and you're just like drawing your sensory back in and like removing it from reaching out. You can do that. You can practice that skill. It's a human skill. You know, and if you want to think about it in a like way more simple way, you can just distract yourself, right? And this is something that people do when they're in a state of being triggered emotionally or whatever too. You're distracting yourself, right? Where you're like tapping yourself, bringing yourself back into your body and noticing those sensations instead of whatever it is that's overwhelming you outside of yourself. or focus on things that aren't the overwhelming thing. If you're in some sort of situation where like literally everything around you is like too loud, too visual, too whatever, you're like too overwhelmed, it does have to be like inside of you. But maybe it's like something in front of you, like literally turn around and look at the other way and focus on something over there. Because wherever you put your attention, like that's where your senses are going to start focusing, right? That's the attention part of this that we all have and we can all control. Sometimes difficult at first, but the more you practice it, the easier it gets. So you got to start practicing possibly like before you end up in an overwhelming situation. You want to start practicing putting your attention somewhere else and focusing inward and these types of skills so that when you're in the moment that's overwhelming, it's easier because you've practiced it so much. Because when you're in an overwhelming moment, it's hard to do that. So practice, practice, practice. You're an empath and you can do this. And so like that focus piece of it where you're choosing to put your attention somewhere and your senses are going to follow that focus. They're going to follow your attention. They're going to start getting more data from that place than they had been getting from the other place, no matter where you choose to put that, whether it's in your body or somewhere else. And they're going to start focusing and pulling data from there. This is actually a skill that's overdeveloped in PTSD survivors. And it's called hyperfocus, or there's another word for it that I can't remember. And so this is a real coping skill. And the reason why PTSD survivors have that is because it works. It's a skill that they needed to get through a situation that was overwhelming for them. For us, because I have this skill too. And this was actually how I got like all of my accomplishments in life, because I was hyper-focused and anything that I put my focus on, it was like that was all that existed. Because then that blocks out everything else. So it's a good skill. There's a reason why PTSD people do that, and it's because it works. And so you can do this too. Don't do it in a pathological way that's compulsive and keeps you from like in a permanent state of not experiencing life. That's not good. But you can use it as a skill that helps you in this moment of being overwhelmed, right? Again, especially if you practice it ahead of time and you know what you're doing. Hyper focus on something and get yourself out of that place sensorially. So that's the basic. If you are an empath, which we all are, but if you're one of the people who is in that strongly, constantly in that state, and you get to that point where you're overwhelmed, try that skill. And the reason why I wanted to focus on this is because I get sad when I hear people say things like, well, I'm an empath, so I don't like to go to social situations. And it's like, dude, you're cutting yourself off from these experiences in life because you've decided you're in this state permanently. Like, don't do that to yourself. Empower yourself. Be able to go do anything you want. And maybe you don't want to, that's fine. But like, if you are like, oh, I can't because I'm an empath, don't tell yourself that. Tell yourself like, I can. It'd be harder and I'd have to practice some skills to be comfortable in it, but I can do it. I just like, maybe I choose not to, or maybe I do. Maybe today's the day I choose to go do that and practice these skills and be an empath in this place of high sensory data. At the very least, you want to trust that you will always be able to let go of anything that isn't you. You're never going to be in a situation where you have to take in the sensory data of the things around you that are not who you are in your core and what you want in your core. You're going to trust that you can always remove yourself from those sensory experiences when you choose to, because you practice this skill, because you want to be able to do that. Trust that process. But maybe you're the opposite. Maybe you're the person who says, I'm not an empath. That's why I came and watched this show today, because you said I'm a fucking empath and I don't believe you. I'm not an empath. If you're that person and you are an empath, you are a fucking empath, you just haven't felt that and experienced it so far. And maybe now you're hearing this and you're like, well, fuck, I want to try it then. I want to be able to like be intuitive and, notice like details of all the shit around me all the time. And I want to feel what other people are feeling in moments where I choose to. You can practice that skill. You can develop that skill on purpose. You can intentionally go out and purposely force yourself to sensorially connect with the things around you. It is a human trait that you possess, and you can do that because you are a fucking empath. Make sure. Did I say what's up to Sue? Hi, Sue. I think I did, but what's up? Oh, Eric's here. Hi, Eric. Noah. What's up, Noah? I think I said hi to everybody. That's my song about saying hi. All right. So if you're underwhelmed and you're disconnected and you're not an empath, but you want to practice being an empath that you are, then start focusing outside of yourself. This is like the state of being that we're in when we are like really in our heads a lot. We're like very logical, mental people perhaps, and we're always kind of thinking and reflecting with our thoughts or whatever. Like, if we're very mental, we're often in this state. If we're very hurt and traumatized, we can be in this state again because we've learned how to protect ourselves and disconnect from that sensation. But we can start at any time focusing outside of ourselves. And that's as simple as it is. If you want to keep it really simple, that's how simple it is you just focus outside of yourself. And you are noticing sensory data. And you can literally start with your like 5, allegedly we have 5 senses, your 5 senses if that's where you want to start. You can go sit somewhere. And maybe you're going to sit in like a park. Let's say a park would be a good place to sit. If it's a park that people go to, especially, it's better. You're going to go sit in a park and you're going to sit there and you're going to like first just like notice your surroundings. You're going to be like, what do I hear? Oh, I hear a stream nearby. I hear some birds. I hear a honk from over there. What do I see? I see green grass. I see a tree. That tree over there looks like it might be dying. I see some people over there. There's a child, whatever. What do you feel? Like, oh, I feel like the cold breeze. It's actually cold today, even though the sun's out. Like, oh, but where the sun's hitting me, I feel heat. It sounds really stupid. Like, some of you are sitting there going like, this is fucking stupid. But literally, if you're that type of person, you're like, the thing is your attention has never been that much outside of yourself and gathering those sensory inputs in a consistent way where you're using that as a stream of information that you're drawing information from constantly, consistently. You just haven't practiced that. You can do it, though, on purpose. You can intentionally go do it. And as you start to do this, you can also then start to try to do it with other people. When you're like watching people and it's like, maybe sounds creepy or whatever, but whatever, I like people watching. It's fun. I like to give people backstories that they don't have. And you can start watching people and you can try to make eye contact with some of these people and smile. And when you're doing it, you can try to like purposely think like, what are they thinking or feeling right now? And you're like not going to know at first at all. You have no idea, but you're going to start to like, it's like a subconscious thing you're going to start to turn on because your focus is going there and your focus is asking itself, like, what is that? And what is all the sensory data together telling me about this thing that I'm experiencing right now? And you're going to start to get better at being empathic. And I know that the people who are empaths who heard me talk about how to like pull back from that, they were all going like, that's true, actually. I can do that. I am going to practice that. That might be helpful someday. But a lot of the people who are not empaths who are hearing this part are like, that's bullshit. This is stupid. I just know it because I've been there. I'm going to just point out that Gordon says that he does this and that's what made him find the owls. He has these owls that come back to his house every year and have babies and they're so adorable and cute and amazing. And what a cool experience that actually doing this practice got him to experience that beautiful thing. So you like never know where this is going to take you. It's pretty cool, especially if you're going to go do it in a place of nature. It's going to get wild, man. It's going to be rad. Take your feet off, take your shoes off, even better. Put your feet on the ground or your hands on the ground or your hand on a tree if you don't want to take your shoes off in public or whatever. Like touch the ground and the earth while you're doing it and just add like a whole new level to this experience. I should have just started from there. Take your shoes off and go sit in the dirt and then turn your senses on and your focus. Put your focus around in different places and then see what happens. That's pretty fucking cool. That's the next level. Like start small maybe if you don't want to overwhelm yourself if you're not used to being empathetic. But you also, when you're doing that practice, you want to notice the thoughts and emotions that come up. And this is a really important part actually, that it's going to be hard because you don't want to be too much in your head, which is what you're going to want to be because that's where you've been for a long time. So I don't know when you want to add this part back in, but you just have to be aware that you don't want to spend too much time there, but you also do want to be aware of what thoughts come. Because the thoughts and emotions, the more you're noticing them in conjunction with these other senses you're getting, that's going to be how you get better and better at understanding, knowing and trusting that you know things that you don't know or whatever, which is what empaths are often, again, they're intuitive and they're psychic, right? Because because they're doing these things. They're taking all the sensory data and they're combining it in a way that they are so well practiced at that they know what it means. And you can be there too. And so you want to gather your thoughts and your emotions at the same time as you're starting to experience putting your focus on certain places and interpreting the senses from there. And especially it'd be cool if you are someone who is not an empath who's going to try this, to do it with another person or another people, because when you're comparing notes with each other, you might find that there's themes. And again, I know that a lot of you are like, this is fucking stupid, I'm not going to do this. But again, it's like a choice you're making, right? My main thing in doing this whole show is to make people really think about the fact that there are no non-empaths and there are only empaths, and there are only people in various states of empathy, and it's all controllable, and it's all something you can choose and do whatever you want with, because you are in control of your world and your life. You can do anything you want with it. You can put your senses and your emotions and your instincts and your attention anywhere you want them to be, in any state of being at any point in your life. So just be empowered and know that you can do that, and trust. If you're learning this process, go back to this trust idea. Trust that as you're gathering the sensory data, you're taking it in and it's accurate. It's accurate. You know what you see and what you smell and what you feel and what all of these things. Like somebody can't like give you water and say that it's milk. You know what it tastes like. So you trust that the data that you're getting is real and that it's true and that you can understand it. You trust that about yourself. And that's part of it too, right? You're learning to trust yourself if you're not an empath who's practicing these skills. If you're an empath, you're already in a deep state of trust of yourself because you've already learned over and over again in every moment of every day that your senses are right. So there's a lot of applications of this information. And like I said, I teach a class on psycho-spiritual protection, and I have an even deeper method of learning how to know what is true and what is not, because sometimes we're really good at empathy and we still have self-doubt from years and years of practice of self-doubt and from years and years of training not to trust ourselves, because that's what this system does to us on purpose. And so I have a class that even for empaths might be helpful in learning at least one skill. There's a lot of skills in the class that you can learn and apply that don't necessarily relate to this talk, but some of them apply directly and can teach you how to know for sure what something is real or not, or true or not, or whatever. And so it's very handy to have. And it especially helps if you're an empath, but it can be taught and used by anybody, again, because you are an empath, whether you like it or not. But you can't do any of that, whether you're an empath trying to move towards being able to control how much input you're getting, or whether you're a non-empath who's trying to like, oh, maybe I can like learn some of these empathy skills and whatever and apply it. You can't do any of that if you don't trust yourself. You gotta trust. And if you don't believe you can, because if you don't believe you can, you can't. That's just the truth. That's the end of that story. So you gotta ask yourself, like, why? Why do you believe you can't? If you're somebody who's sitting there like, no, I can't do this. Or like, why? What made you think that? Hopefully it wasn't a stupid meme that said like, you are an empath or you're not. And hopefully it wasn't other people outside of yourself, because I bet you anything that if you sit with yourself long enough and just interpret that data, you learn that you can do anything, especially when it comes to empathy. So you first have to believe that you are capable of knowing. You have to trust that you can do this correctly and that your senses are accurate. And then you can take this a lot of places, psychologically, spiritually, see auras, other things like that. You have to trust first. You have to trust in yourself, and you have to trust in the fact that truth does exist, and that there are things that are real and things that are not real, and that you can decide which are real and which are not real. You have to trust in all of that. And that's why I said this show is actually about trust. You are a fucking empath. That's just a fact. And we went through all the reasons why I know that that's a fact. But you also have to be in a place where you can trust. And if you're not in that place, then that's your first step. You got to get to the place where you can trust yourself, and know that everything is always going to pass. It's always going to keep changing. You're always going to be able to adjust your level of empathy within the changing currents of time. That's always going to be true. And I'll just clarify something too. Do I think that there are people who are actually like psychic and can literally read thoughts? And do I say, yeah, I do. I do think that's real. I don't necessarily think that anybody can get from, especially from a space of like non-empath to that. I don't know if that's possible in one life. Maybe it is. What do I know? I haven't done it. But maybe it is. But I do think there are people who just like are psychic. I just think that they're also empath. They're in a state of like full empathy too. So I don't think you can do that without being in a state of full empathy. Let's say that. That's what I think. That's what seems true to me. I totally want to know if this experiment works. Brett saying, how many fingers do I have? And Sasha says 2. Did she really get it? That's crazy. Rad. I love it. By the way, Reagan and I were talking. I hope I'm saying your name right. Reagan and I were talking about wanting to start back up. I was doing me and Kathy and some people were doing why am I blanking? Fucking the thing where you see shit that's from far away. Remote viewing. We were doing a remote viewing thing. We were doing practice with it, and one of us would, we're all over the world, and one of us would put something like in a box or something somewhere in our house, and we would do a little video and show the box and where it was in our house. And we would make sure, if we're people who have spiritual protection in place, that we had like sort of allowed that thing to be in a place that was capable for people's consciousnesses to come through and access. So we'd remove the spiritual barriers from that area or whatever. And then we would practice trying to like see what it was. And we had some like cool results, pretty cool results. And then we just stopped. I don't remember why. We just stopped doing it. We're all still friends even. So Reagan and I were talking about remote viewing, and I was telling him about that. And he was like, why don't we do that again? And I was like, yeah, we should. And I think I've brought it up on the show like twice now and still not done it. But my idea is, if you were in the intention meditations group, we could do it in there. But then I also don't know if I want to muddy up that group. Maybe we should make like a whole new group just for remote viewing practice. So if you're listening, let me know in the comments what you think I should do, because I would love to start that group back up and do that, once a week or once every other week, and just switch people in the group's houses and what they, who has it, and then like whatever, and practice that. I think it'd be fun. So let me know if you want to do it and how you think it would be best be done. New group, intention meditations group, something else. I don't know, whatever. Let me know, because I think it'd be fun to do again. Also, I could have told you guys that Sasha was an empath. You know how? Because you're a fucking empath. Because you're all empaths. Because we're all empaths. Because we're human beings, and human beings have empathy. So I also wanted to this reminded me of this thing where, like, there's this video. We have deep fake, right? So there's like people can be like made to be doing anything that we want them to be made to be doing. And it's not even actually them, but it's like totally convincing. Visually, you look at it and you're like, fuck, that's fucking, how would I not know that that's like Christy Brinkley and Richard Gere playing with gerbils or whatever. Because it looks like that. What's up, Megsy? Welcome. By the way, if any of you out there were listening or like, I'm just going to go start this fucking remote viewing group right now, like, go do it and invite me into it, because I want to do it too. But otherwise, I'll start one or whatever you guys want. But anyway, so we're in the world of deep fake. I even saw this video the other day where someone ripped off their face, like fucking Scooby-Doo style, and they were like a totally different person underneath. But before that, they had been moving their face, and it was pretty convincing. If I would have watched it longer, I wonder how it would have really looked. But we have that. You can just like, anyone can put on a new face maybe and seem to be someone entirely different. There's this thing that I saw a while ago that was like Photoshop, whatever, digital art of a UFO coming in through the clouds. And you looked at it and you're like, well, that's fake. Like, it looks fake. The UFO looks super fake. But the person pointed out like this, what's amazing about this isn't that the UFO looks kind of realistic and is really well done artistically, but that you look at it and notice that it's fake, but actually everything in the picture is fake. And then you look back and you realize like the dashboard of the car that's in the picture and the sky and the trees and the highway and like all that shit is fully digitally rendered art, but it looked 100% real. I could not tell that the dashboard and the trees and whatever weren't. I could tell that the UFO was, but that was the whole point, is they were trying to like get you to not notice that. Anyway, my point is like shit can look really real and be fake as fuck. And I'm here to tell you that even that, you can know. You can actually know if it's real or not just by using empathy. You're a human being, you have that skill, and you can do it. If you want to be able to know things like that, you can. And it's accurate 100% of the time. So, yeah, so don't panic. This is like the best thing that we ever learned from Douglas Adams. Don't panic. Never panic. There's no point in panicking. Panicking will never do you well. If you're like, I don't fucking know what's real, and you're panicking, like you're definitely not going to know what's real. Just take a breath. Take a breath and know that you actually can know. And most importantly, you can always know what's around you. If you were looking at a screen, you don't really even need to know if it's real or not, because it's not in front of you and it doesn't actually matter. But you even can know if that's real or not. But you have to trust. You have to trust that you are a being that is more than just your body. Your body is equipped with these amazing senses. At all these different levels of being, you have all of these senses, but you're more than your physical body, and you're more than your physical senses, and you trust that that is true, and you know that that's true. I think even like hardcore materialist atheists know that that's true. They just are scared. They have some sort of layer on their peel that they haven't like discarded yet to really like let themselves remember that that's true. And you trust that. You know that you can't harm that thing that you are that's not your body. It can't be harmed. It can't be killed. It cannot be, nothing can be like permanently done to it. Nothing is ever going to be lost forever, ever, ever, ever. You're always going to have that part of you. I know that. I think that you know that. And you have to trust that. And you are in that state, literally connected to every single thing that exists or ever has existed or ever will exist. And that's never going to change either. And if you trust that and you know that you're more than this being, then you're definitely an empath, because you know the truth. And you are a fucking empath. And you do need to trust yourself and the things around you and your sensory data. Because that shit is true. That's the way you know truth. And I also trust that I'm here for a reason. Maybe I even came like right here, right now to this place and time for a reason. But at the very least, I'm here for my sole reason, which may not be dependent upon time or place. But I came for a reason. I'm here for a reason. I'm incarnated in a creation for a reason. And I trust that I'm exactly where I need to be, and I'm exactly where I need to be in my level of empathy. So there's like no judgment in any of this. And that's another thing I hate about that stuff, when people are like, oh, I'm an empath, are you? Like, yeah, I am, and so are you, and so is everyone, but also like, who cares? If you want to be like disconnected from your empathetic sensation or sensory, interpretations, do it. That's rad. Do whatever you need to do. Who cares? If you're like fully in the empath mode and you want to know everything you can about everything there is, fucking rad. Like, do it. Like, it's all stuff that we can choose to do or not do. And there's nothing wrong with doing it or not doing it. Do whatever you want to do. Hear you. That's great. So be a fucking empath. And I guess we can talk about auras now if we want to talk about auras. Let's see what people are saying. Trust your gut all the time. Absolutely. That is a literal gut. Your gut knows shit. It's like a brain down there. There's all these like neurons and shit. So whether you're like a straight up materialist, you know that your gut knows shit. But also you can feel it. If you're like in that situation where your like gut hollows out, you're like, oh shit, something's wrong. Like, you know that shit is true. Trust your gut for sure. Trust your senses for sure. So here's the thing, and this is another part of that. When we're talking about prosthetics and stuff. There's how do I want to put this? There are ways to make people's senses interpret data and information that wouldn't otherwise be interpreted. Let's put it that way, right? There's voice to skull technology. They can make you hear shit in your head. I mean, that type of technology exists in various ways. They can make you feel burning sensations, and they can make you feel all kinds of things physically. Apparently they can make you hallucinate, have visual hallucinations, so they can make you see shit too. And this is part of why I encourage actually everyone to explore their empathetic skills, because these are the things that you can actually know if they're real or, I mean, they're real either way. Either way, there's something happening that you're perceiving, and your perceptions are correct. But if you want to be able to know like which perceptions you would be otherwise having if someone weren't like forcing them onto you, then you need to develop your empathetic skills in order to discern which things are, let's say, natural and which are not natural. I think that's a really good reason. That's a really good argument to develop your empathetic skills that you have because you're a fucking empath, and to learn how to trust yourself and trust those senses so that you can always know when your experiences and your sensations are being fucked with or not. I think you know anyway. I don't think you even have to try that hard. I think if some fucking random person starts like beaming voice to skull shit at your skull, I think you'll know. And now maybe other people won't. Maybe they'll think you're crazy because people are assholes, but you'll know, I think. Even if you're not an empath, I think you'll know. But you especially can know for sure that you know, and trust even more if you practice your empathetic skills and being with your sensations and interpreting them and trusting them. Yeah. My gut has saved me 1,000 times. Literally, the Yeti says. It's true. And if you're listening to your gut, it'll continue to save you forever and ever. Go with your highest joy with every choice. Exactly. And so if it makes you joyful to become more and more empathetic, then do it. And if it makes you joyful to become less and less empathetic, then do it. And honestly, if you want to like move forward with the idea that there are some empaths and some non-empaths, do that too. I just get like, I don't know. I just think that people should be more aware that it's all a spectrum and it's all variable, and that you can choose to move yourself up and down that spectrum if you choose. It's not a permanent state that you're in. Nothing is, right? The whole thing is change. So we got the request to talk about auras, so we'll talk about auras. What do we want to know about auras? You guys just want to know how to learn to see auras? I'm just going to go with that, and then let me know in the comments if you have other things that you would like to know about auras or with this process. But this is the easiest way to learn to see auras. You are going to want as close to a white wall as you can get, and as barren of detractors and distractors as you can get. So preferably you have a white wall. Like if this behind me were white, let's say that much space is good. And you want it to, again, not have like books and pictures and shit. You just want it to be bare, no like shit on the wall or whatever it is. Or if you're going to hang up a sheet to do this, then you can do that too. And just, and yeah, do that. If you can do this in natural sunlight, it's the best. Although the first time that I noticed I could see auras was in a room with like nothing but fluorescent lights and white walls. So you can do this anywhere. And I'll just tell you I don't know if I've told this story or not, but I was in treatment. I was in drug treatment. I think I was 13. I think I was 13 years old. I had just gone to drug treatment. So, you know, I'd been doing a lot of like crystal meth and acid and some cocaine and a lot of drinking, a lot of weed. And I finally went to treatment, and so I was there for like, I think I left after a week or whatever, but I was there for like 3 days or so before I was like in that room with the white walls, and we were at this giant AA meeting where everybody had to go. And all of a sudden I was like, holy fuck, like everybody in this room is glowing. Like every single human being in this room is glowing all of a sudden. Various colors, they're all like shifting and moving. And I'm like, I fucked my brain up. Like I'm done now. Like I'm permanently fucked my brain up, and now everyone's going to glow for the rest of my life, and like fuck. And I was writing letters. So I wrote letters to wrote a letter to my sister, and I was like, everyone's glowing. I broke my brain. I did too much acid. Like, I don't know, man, this is pretty bad. And she wrote back and she's like, no, you're seeing auras. And I was like, what the fuck is an aura? And the more I learned about auras, the more I noticed like, oh, I actually am seeing auras. Like they change with people's moods. They change with people's thoughts. They, are constantly changing, and everybody has different colors at different times and whatever. And so it'd be weird for that to be a hallucination. But I've also noticed over time that it correlates perfectly with what people are thinking and feeling. And so it is a real thing that I was perceiving. I just didn't know it. And it's probably not that I obviously didn't break my brain and start seeing people glowing, but it's that probably what happened was I was sober enough for long enough that I could finally be in touch with my perceptions of the world. That's my understanding now. So again, that white wall, the reason why it like all came into view so suddenly right then is because I was in this room with like nothing but white walls with nothing on the walls at all. And so when people were like walking in front of them, it's really easy to see that light, whatever that is, with the white behind it. So that's why you want to have a white wall. It's easier to see. If it's dark or black or whatever, it's going to be harder. If there's shit all over drawing your attention away, it's going to be harder. But you do want that white wall. You want someone to practice with. You can't do it alone because you're trying to see other people's auras. You can try to see your own. There's nothing wrong with that. You can actually totally practice this alone. If you want a mirror with a white wall behind you, you can do it to yourself. And actually, you know what? That might even be better because you know exactly what you're thinking and feeling. And so then it's even easier to know what is going on. So maybe try that if you want to do it by yourself. Yeah. It's weird to look at your own aura. It's awesome though. You should totally do it. So yeah, let's just say you're doing it with someone else though, because that's probably what most people are going to do. Maybe not. I don't know what you guys are doing. God. But let's just say you're doing it with someone else. So you're going to have them, let's say, go first. They're going to sit in front of the white wall. There is a blue liquid that was banned by the government after it was discovered that when you put it in a glass and look through it, you can see people's auras. Yeah, well, fuck them, because you can do it without that shit. Anybody, 100% of humans, except maybe those 3% that are psychopaths or whatever, can do this. I promise you. Okay, it's exactly like the empath thing. Anybody can see auras. It's a human trait that you have. You have the senses to see auras. So put the person in front of the white wall and you just stare at them. It's kind of awkward, but you want to stare. People say about here, it's like the lazy eye, magic eye sort of thing. You want to just like relax your eyes and look baby right here for, I don't know, try like a minute maybe without moving, just staring right there at them and relaxing your eye, and you should start to see them glowing. And we often think this is like that thing where like if you stare at the sun and then look away, you see like a negative image or whatever. When we first start perceiving this, if we've never perceived it before, we think it's that because the person's going to naturally like shift a little. And so you might think that it's like that sort of negative image. And it does look kind of the same because as they move, it moves with them. So it is a similar visual experience to that for me and probably for you. It is like focusing on those 3D pictures, the magic eye pictures. But you don't have to stay in that state. But it helps when you're doing that initially to stare at their forehead right here in their third eye. To be in that state of relaxed eyes because it's going to allow your peripheral to pick up the colors that are swarming around their body. So you'll start to see it, and again, you probably won't trust it at first. You'll think it's a negative image. You'll think you're not doing it right. You'll think it's not strong enough, whatever. The more you do it, the easier it'll be to see. At least it is for me. It's even now, after years of seeing people's auras and with all kinds of colors and distractions behind them, like it's still way easier to do it in front of a white wall. So if I'm going to do it as like a party trick, then I insist on the white wall because it's way easier. But yeah, so what's cool then is when you are practicing this with each other, you, especially if it's someone who you like love and trust deeply, because some people want to hide shit. Like we don't want everyone to see our fucking muddy parts of our auras or whatever and like call us on some shit. So you do definitely want to do it with someone who you trust enough to be like, oh yeah, I am like having that fucking nasty thought right now or whatever. Because if you can verify with them, you're like, whoa, right now it just changed all of a sudden. Did you just like change like thoughts or feelings and why? And then you can start to learn what the colors are, because what I've learned is from other people who say they see auras, they don't see the same things I see. They don't see the same colors as I see. I definitely don't see the same thing that those aura pictures see. And so I don't know exactly why that is or what's going on. But my idea is that it's like anything else, and that you know, what I taste, I might like think some food is delicious and you might think it's fucking disgusting. Like, we just have different ways of sensing things. And so it's just coming through my filter. It looks this way. And so I can tell you what I see, but it might not be what you see. And maybe it is. Like, maybe, you know, I don't know. Because I haven't talked to a lot of people who see auras in my life. In fact, I don't know if I've ever talked to anybody. I think I've only read shit. So if you do this, I'd love to talk to you about what you experience. But I notice that, like, when people, like the colors for me, I'll just tell you what my colors are. People, I developed this understanding of what the colors mean before I knew chakras or what the chakra colors were or what they meant. So it's interesting to me that it correlates with the sort of traditional 7 color, 7 chakra, like rainbow system. So you can imagine then that red is sort of like a very like base survival, you know, sorry, I have the hiccups, like instinctual or like physical. If someone's thinking about like, oh fuck, I'm hungry, I really need to eat some meat, like they're gonna like have some red in their aura. Orange is still similar to that, but it's like a little bit less intense or heated or emotional, or it's like less survival based and more like sort of materialistic and whatnot. But it can also be, both of those can be kind of like sexual, and they're like those sorts of things. Yellow is a weird one, because you'd think that yellow would then be that next chakra up, which wouldn't necessarily connect with what I'm about to say. But for me, yellow is often this very joyous, I guess it does connect. Yeah. It's like a joyous, like energetic, very like sort of present in the moment, but still towards that like physical aspect of things, I guess you would say. Yeah, that does make sense. Then the green color for me is someone who's like basically in an empathetic state. It's someone who's like caring and reaching out with that care, like concerned with the things outside of themselves in a pretty positive way. Blue is someone who's more concerned with themselves, and so maybe like someone like, that's our speech center, right? So maybe someone who's it's not a selfish thing. It's just like you're kind of focused on yourself and your state and where you're at, which you would be if you're speaking. Like right now, my aura's probably got a lot of blue in it and a lot of green, because I like you guys and I'm doing it for you as well. And maybe some yellow, because I'm pretty excited and joyful when I do this stuff too. But so yeah, and then purple, for me, purple is like the one I love to see the most. Purple is like an ecstatic state of like spiritual presence and bliss or whatever. It's definitely like the highest state that I see. It's the best color I see. The most beautiful aura I ever saw was only purple and yellow, and I was like, whoa. And this person was on this like trip, like they were like speaking really impassioned about children and how we have to like save the children for the future. And so it makes sense that their aura was purple and yellow. It was amazing. It was so cool. It's pretty rare though. It's not a lot of people walking around with purple or yellow for that matter. There's a lot of red, there's a lot of orange, there's a good amount of blue and green. There's not a lot of purple or yellow, for me at least. And then black is fucked up. Black auras are fucked up. Super rare. I think I've seen 2 black auras. One of them was almost fully black. It was terrifying. Funny story. I had walked into this room of back up on the island I grew up on. There's almost no black people. We're not talking about black auras. We're talking about, you know, African American people or people with darker skin tones. It's just happened to be a very white place. And so this person moved to my little island, and they were black. Just so happened to be black. And a bunch of the people I hung out with were like really upset. When you're in a small town and new people come, people get like really excited or whatever. So they were like, "This guy's so cool," and I was like, "Cool, whatever." And the first time I went somewhere where he was, I walked into the room and he was sitting on the couch, and I looked at him, and then I turned around and left. And then my boyfriend at the time came out to me and was like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "I'm not going back in there." And he was like, "Why?" And I'm like, "That dude's fucked up." Because he had a black aura, but I was like not at a point in time where I like shared this very openly with people. So I didn't want to be like, "Yeah, his aura's black." Like, now you think I'm crazy, which I should have, but I didn't. And he was just like, what's wrong with you? You're racist. And I was like, no. He just so happens to be black, but his aura is black. Anyway, that guy ended up murdering literally my friend and his mom. I'm sorry, my friend's mom and his sister, and shooting my friend and then killing himself after he had raped a small child. That's a black aura. Sorry to suddenly dump all of that on you. I hope that I didn't disturb anyone too deeply. It's a very disturbing thing that happened, but that is a black aura, and that's why it's so rare. There's not a lot of people who are murderous and rapists, and like, as far as I'm concerned, a person with black aura, especially if it's that deeply black, like that this is just like saturated everywhere and it doesn't change. As far as I'm concerned, they have a demonic attachment, or however you want to think of that, an entity or a outside force or whatever has latched on like fully and works through them like without any hampering at all. So that's a black aura. Again, I can only think of 2 times where I've ever seen it, and the other time it was a lot less solid. It was like this person was battling that thing, I think, probably, and having not so much success, and so that was really sad to see. I don't like that. I don't like black auras. And then, so they're very, very rare. You'll know, though. It's another thing that, like, you don't have to see auras to know. You'll see someone and have a real bad feeling about them, and you trust your gut. And that's the thing that I think is actually happening. I think you're actually seeing that aura or sensing it in some way, and your gut is telling you that you're seeing it because your rational mind has, like, erased it from your experience at some point. And so your gut's like screaming like, dude, this person has a black aura. And you're like, I think I have a bad feeling about this. Like, trust that. There's a reason. You're noticing something that actually really does exist and you're sensing it. Fuck, how long has this been going on, you guys? Okay, not too long. And black isn't the only disturbing color, although it's the most disturbing color and it's the most disturbing effects on that person. And it's, I don't even know, like, those people need spiritual help, and you can't just walk up to them and give it to them, can you? So you just have to trust that they're gonna fucking work that shit out at some point in some level of being, and that you're not responsible for it or attached to it, so you just let it go. The other types of auras that maybe you can work with a little bit more, I don't know, and you don't have to. I don't even know why I'm throwing that out there. Don't even worry about that part. But are people with gray or like muddy or like brown in their aura, and those people are not, as far as I understand things, having like demonic or entity effect, although they probably are when you think about that these entities are all around all the time and trying to suck off of our shit that we're throwing off for free, like emotional stuff. But like, I don't think that it's like a sort of like insertion or attachment thing. Anyway, I think what's happening with people who have gray and brown and stuff, I think they're going through some mental and emotional anguish and disturbance, and it's often pretty severe. You know, if someone's going through really severe abuse or depression or whatever, they're going to have like grayish sort of tones or like muddy brownish, like kind of leaking through them. And that sucks to see too. And it can be disturbing. Those people can be pretty intense and pretty negative. And so both seeing it and experiencing it are, not fun. But here to tell you that those are also very, very rare, actually. Even if people are experiencing some, like, you're like, oh, I'm kind of depressed, but I'm gonna like go out to this party anyway, I guess. You might have some like gray and brown, or it's not gonna be much and no one's gonna care. Like, it's okay. But you're mostly gonna see the colors, the rainbow colors. You're mostly gonna see that. And I have never yet seen anyone with a white aura. And my understanding of what a white aura would be, if I did see it, would be someone who is so incredibly masterful of their energy that they are purposely cloaking it from me. That's what a white aura would mean to me. I've heard people say that white auras are like the highest spiritual whatever. I guess that's kind of equivalent to what I'm saying, so maybe that's true. But like I was saying, like purple is like the highest spiritual expression. You're expressing it out at the world. Or feeling it really strongly in yourself, for me. So again, white might be kind of equivalent to a really high spiritual state, but it's also to me is like a cloaking, which I don't know how I feel about it. I've never seen it, and it kind of would like bother me to not be able to perceive more. Or like your empathetic skills are then cut off by another person. That's interesting, huh? I don't know. Let's see what you guys are saying. Walked out of bars where shit pops off within minutes of me leaving. Yeah, trust your intuition. I think you can have these like psychic impulses from the future if you're that sort of dialed in to the senses that you have, because I think our emotional experiences kind of radiate out in all directions in time, and so if something's going to happen, especially with a lot of people, that'll like push it back even further or more strongly. I think you can sense that shit. It's good to listen to it. Trust. The show is about trust. Sorry to hear that. Me too. That was a horrifying set of experiences. I could tell so many crazy fucked up stories. My aura changes with my underwear color. Me too, bro. Yellow and brown auras. Yeah, like I said, yellow to me is a very positive color. And then brown is a bit muddy and not, it's like not pure, you know? Shit's twisted in there. The white and light pink aura for me is angelic. Interesting. That would be pretty similar, maybe, to what I was saying, like a very masterful person would be capable of that. Again, I think it's like an intentional thing that people put into their aura. It's interesting. My girlfriend told me mine is purple. He's talking about me. He does have purple in his aura. It's amazing. I think most of the people who I really deeply love and like to be around have a lot of purple in their auras. Maybe I'm biased, or maybe I haven't looked into enough people who are around me. I actually honestly like almost never look at anyone's aura because I feel kind of rude about it. I'm like, this is none of my business. But I had the last like aura reader I went to, she was like, you need to stop that shit. Like, you have that sense for a reason. I'm like, that's true. I know. I just trust that my gut will scream at me if I'm not paying attention, but I should probably be more intentional about it. I just like think like, well, fuck, what if somebody's having like a really bad day and I'm like looking at their aura and it's like none of my business and that's not even how their aura normally looks. But I guess I know that too. So it just feels kind of weird. It feels kind of invasive. If everybody was doing it all the time, I'd feel a lot better about it. Angels, all of us are angels. So I guess what I hope is that you recognize that you're a fucking empath and recognize that you have control over that and that you can become more empathic or less empathic in any moment. And if you practice it, the more you practice it, the better you're going to get at it. I hope you recognize that your ability to read auras or perceive anything in the world that you want to perceive is within your ability to control and develop. If you want to focus on it and practice it, you can do that. That's your choice. As a human being, you have that skill available to you to learn. And I hope you feel empowered to do that. And I also hope you feel comfortable to not do it. If you're like, fuck seeing auras and all this shit, I don't care. Like, don't do it. It's rad. It doesn't matter. You do whatever you want. You choose your own adventure. That's what life is. It's a big, huge, fat, wonderful, beautiful choose your own adventure book. And we're writing it as we go. So I think that's about it, guys. I want to remind you of some things. Fogs and babies see auras all the time. Babies literally see auras all the time. They can't stop themselves from seeing auras because we're born with this skill. And if you meet babies, you'll notice that they look above your head first, and then they look at your face because they don't care what you look like. They care about what you are, and what you are is shown in your aura. Clearly, you can't lie unless you're that masterful level that can do the white aura. And I don't even think they can lie. I think they can just block. But so babies see it. Dogs definitely see it. Not all dogs. Some dogs are kind of dumb, but I think dogs tend to see that shit. I think cats too, and for that matter, maybe all animals, who knows? But I know for sure you can even tell that a baby can see auras, because right now, if you have a baby in your life, you can go walk up to them and notice that even if they know you really well, they'll still look up above your head, because this is where your strongest aura is. If I didn't mention that, that's why you stare at the It's not because you're actually staring at the person's pineal gland. It's because you're staring here because that's the strongest area of aura. You have aura around your arm and your legs. It's just a lot weaker than it is around your head and your heart. And your heart is occluded by your body. So that's the easiest way. So babies will look here above your head and then look at your face every time. 100% of babies, 100% of the time, unless they're fucked up, which is a sad subject, so we won't talk about it. And so they do. And you know what I think is that we all saw auras until we were about 6 or 7 and were trained out of our state of trance-like behavior and ability and into this sort of materialist, physical-centered, productivity-based worldview. And we learned that it wasn't an important sense to pay attention to. And that's why I know that you can start paying attention to it again and see it again, because you're a fucking empath and you were born that way. Empathic I Spy. You can all see it. Everyone has power. Everyone can do this. This is why I also hate it when people are like, I am so special. I see auras and I can do this and that. And it's like, well, so can fucking everyone. So you're not that special. You are, because you chose to develop it and whatever, but like, it's pretty fucking stupid to feel egotistical about it. Jesus. Stupid. Their auras are probably fucked up. Okay, I'll stop now. Anyways, I want to remind you that you can win these beautiful coasters by going to subscribestar.com/rogue-ways and subscribing even at the $1 level. Yes, you too can afford $1 a month and enter to win these beautiful flower coasters that are really cool and $50 value. That's a lot of money that you can get for maybe even just $1. And if you're already a subscriber, remember that you can also win. You just have to share the subscribestar.com/rogue-ways site somewhere on social media and comment on that post in Subscribestar telling me that you did that so I can put your entries into the hat. So you can do that. I want to also remind you that you can go to my site. You can get all kinds of stuff, including random shit I write, the books that I've published, a tarot reading from me if you're into it, and any of these classes that you're interested in, perhaps, the psycho-spiritual protection, finding spiritual allies, tarot basics. Those are all only $20. And a guidance session if you would like to talk more one-on-one and more deeply about your specific situation and goals and blockages, whether they are spiritual or otherwise. And again, go to Subscribestar and subscribe. And if you didn't know, this is also a podcast. So somebody out there is listening to this right now saying, yeah, I know, because I listen to this on my podcast app. And if you don't have a podcast app and don't want one, you can just go to SoundCloud, because that's where all the episodes are hosted. And you can listen instead of watch. But then you don't get all these beautiful visuals. So that's all the stuff. That's all the stuff. What else do you guys say before we sign off? Leave those kids alone. Seriously, can you imagine the world if we just let kids like keep all of that innate, natural, empathic, aura-seeing ability and didn't inject them with shit that gave them fucking autism and other neurological disorders and fucked up their gut? They fuck up your gut for a reason. Our guts are really good sensors, like compact sensory data in there, and they fuck that up on purpose. They didn't do all that shit, and we just got to learn and live in like a natural setting and like actually learn things and not be in an education system. Can you imagine? It'd be so fucking cool. We should make that happen. You are so special. Yetis are so special. Extra special. Now you guys are just making fun of each other. Could you interview probably Alexandra, please? Brown boot army. Brown is a very special color to me. I will write that down. Probably Alexandra. Even better if you want to drop some links so I can go check out probably Alexandra and see. Because maybe I can. Who knows? A 5-year-old president, just like the 8-year-old transgender child will choose the next Secretary of Education or whatever. Oh, wait, not anymore because Elizabeth Warren dropped out. So sad. Yeah, all right. Well, as always, you guys rule. You're my favorites. You're the reason why all of this ever happens, and I really enjoy spending time with you. And I want you to remember that you are a fucking empath. Absolutely. You can develop any skills you want. You have to trust yourself. Yourself is made specifically like this on purpose, and that's because it is perfectly calibrated to interpret all data that it would ever need to ever interpret on every level of being, whether it's physical, social, emotional, mental, spiritual. All of those parts of your body, aspects of being, are filled with senses. Not just the 5 physical ones that you have. There's all kinds of senses you have, and the more you're in touch with, even the physical ones, but any of them, the more you can bring them all together in this unified whole that we then call intuition and psychicness. Anyone can do it. You can see yours too. You can do all that stuff and more. So don't panic, no matter what bullshit seems to be heading your way. Just trust. Trust the process. Trust that you are exactly where you're supposed to be and exactly in the way that you're supposed to be there. And Megsy, hi Megsy, I didn't say hi to you, I think. I do a virtual tarot. Yeah, I do it from a distance. It's like this. We would be looking at each other, except to be just you and I. So you would see the reading happening in real time, and we'd be talking about it in real time. So yeah, grab a tarot reading. And thank you everybody for coming. And until you remember to trust yourself and experience all of your senses all the time and all of their glory and use them for what they're worth, travel well, aim for balance, and always look inside first. Mwah.
It's a one-on-one lesson, so do your homework. Make your dome hurt while up on earth. My bones are blessed from holy dirt. Vibes manifested to words that told me search for verbs and adjectives to describe birth. Worth more than one can speak, while the tongue beats a weak, a sour taste in your mouth, bittersweet. Words can also kill you when you sleep. Mind condition, low frequencies while the subconscious mind listens. I can tell a vision filled with lies disguised as truth, and spread it like the word to the youth. Watch the tube. A place where the God gets food is sorcery. To recreate the God forgery does more than meets the eye. Not too many know. Just hear me flow like the eye of Horus Henio. Yeah, not ready to leave until we believe we're free to go. You hear me? Go.
From the ether, the material will eat ya. Stuck on this plane, lanes use jet fuel to greet ya. The dimensional 3 ain't meeting me on top of the 4th. Didn't climb Jacob's ladder to squab with a sword. Forged with Yggdrasil, branch down. Try quiet your lamps now. Ascension past the matter that they slam out they damn mouths. We ain't on land now, but they over understand. Sacrificing wisdom, hoarding dumber kosher wicked hands. Putting faith in worthless worship of the mortals. Artificial portals, mass ingestion of the black goo. Bioengineered morsels, conversing with machine elves. Bypassing maggots, they stuck on Android screens now. I'm scrolling emerald tablets. Moloch living lavish, off the backs of the savage. Them clasped hands at the Sabbath. Smack of energy damage, they done twisted the tongues. But nanotech in the lungs, the awakening's begun. All they really can do is fucking
run.